Welcome back, man. Episode 45 of BrickShots with Billy and Tonio. For the first time ever, I don't have Tonio, and I'm not doing it by myself, so we're welcoming back Magic Man Mustache Matthew Bringard. Hey, dude, what's going on?
Little depression, I don't know if it's the winter blues or Michigan fucking losing, but here we are.
Could be a little bit of both. I'll give the Wolverines a little benefit of the doubt. They shouldn't affect our mood this much, but it's just sports, and that's what happens to life,
It's gonna affect me for another 2 weeks, and then I'll be back. Go blue, I'll just be ignorant to everything.
Right after the title game, just all right, on to the next. What are y'all gonna do if Harbaugh leaves, man?
See, that's what I was thinking. I was like, if he leaves, who's gonna replace him? And I seen an article today that possibly PJ Fleck.
Ooh.
Because he had Western Michigan rolling. He's got Minnesota playing well. I'm pretty sure they just won their bowl game.
They did.
He would be a nice hire. But, man, I don't know. Harbaugh, he's got us rolling. I would say maybe one of our coordinators step up and take over, maybe Sharon Moore possibly. I think I would like that, keep our coordinators in place, and just keep that system going because it's working. Yeah. We just got to stop these dumb decisions.
Well, because Jim's not an X's and O's. He doesn't call plays for either side of the ball. He's just the head coach, how it should be.
He helps on offense because we have dual offensive coordinators, and that's his. He helps out on offense, assist them because they're both first-time coordinators because we lost our coordinator of the year last year because Jim flirted with the NFL, so he left. So, yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the game, man. What happened? What? If you had one word to sum up Michigan's loss to TCU, what would that word be?
Short.
Oof. All right. Now you can dive into that explanation more. I just needed that one word.
So it's hard to explain because it felt like anything on offense we wanted to do. But TCU, they did anything they wanted on offense. But it was just a missed tackle here, and then Quentin Johnston was just gone down the sideline. So we just needed to tackle better. In the run game, we just couldn't tackle the running backs, and they just kept gashing us for 20, 30 yards at a time, and that was the problem. And offensively, it was just 2 pick sixes cost us the game, essentially, and then we had a touchdown reversed, which is what it is, but just simple mistakes. There's 3 plays that, and the score is completely flipped on its side, so –
Yeah, so I was gonna say, man, so I didn't get to watch the first half because I had to fucking work. I really need to have this podcast take off, so I don't need to be at work. But because I showed up and I'm like, okay, man, because it was I think 21-9, and I was like, that's not the worst hole I've ever seen. Michigan's defense will probably figure something out. Because I didn't see the first pick six, and then I was like, okay, so the defense will figure something out. Like TCU, again, no disrespect to TCU because they're in the national championship, so. But I was just like, I don't think TCU has enough gas to kind of keep pushing this thing off. But remember what I said a couple weeks ago, that they needed that loss to kind of revamp themselves and get back up to play Michigan. And I think that's what happened. So that kind of scares me for when they go play Georgia, if they're still now they're out of that gas again, that they just got reignited, because it's hard to win games in this league. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But Michigan, the red zone, I'm watching the game. I'm just like, What are y'all doing? You're getting, Moody could have settled for a couple field goals, at least where you feel something's going on instead of giving your defense the field. Now, you have Michigan's defense, so, maybe you shouldn't be that worried when they're backed up that far. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world, but then you see them just constantly running down the field, getting some points. Maybe Jim should have been like, all right, let me get my 3 points. Let's fucking reassess. Because at the end of the game, they had a chance too until JJ threw another costly pick, right?
Yeah, both of his pick sixes were to out routes on the right side of the field. So I don't know what they saw on film because JJ's not thrown really any picks all season. There's just been a couple fluke ones where, bounce off a player's helmet, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they saw, but every time he threw that out route, he threw it twice in that game, they picked it off and took it to the house. So they took advantage of their turnovers. We got turnovers on defense as well, but we didn't get pick sixes. So
and I think it was points off turnovers. Michigan had 3, and TCU had obviously quite a bit more than 3 points.
In the second half, every time we started with the ball, we scored a touchdown. But when we got a turnover, we didn't score at all.
Yeah, because I went for it on that fourth down, right?
Yeah, it just felt like we're waiting on them to score, and then we would score. It was just still frustrating.
That has to be really like heart crushing too, because like we'll get into the Ohio State game too. But when you have the ball and you have the chance to win the game, like that has to be you're sitting there. I know you were at the game, so I'm sure you were sitting there like, all right, I'm getting ready to celebrate. We're gonna fucking get it down there because it was 52 to what was the final score? 45.
51-45. So if we would have scored a touchdown, the PAT would have won the game.
Yes, and I'm sure like y'all were sitting there ready for that to fucking go down.
Yeah, there was like 57 seconds left in the final drive where they should have called targeting, but they didn't. And I don't know, that drive, like the energy in that building was, in between plays, we were getting loud. Obviously, you're not supposed to be out loud on offense, but like the energy in the building felt great. And then that fluke play where he fumbled the ball somehow. JJ fumbled it, and then Donovan Edwards got it, and it looked like he had nothing but grass in front of him. Some player, that TCU defense is fast. They got to him. Donovan pitched it out to Colston Loveland, and then that guy just dove straight at his dome. Yeah, I don't know how that's not targeting, but that's not what cost us the game. It's just those mistakes that a young quarterback made throughout that game going up against a senior quarterback, which didn't really make many mistakes, but he also threw his fair share of picks. So
absolutely. Also, though, I think JJ, if you want to look at the quarterback comparison, right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong out here, but if you have a guy like JJ McCarthy, who even last year Michigan fans were like, hey, we don't need Cade McNamara. We need to get JJ in the game. I know I've been on the JJ trade for a minute now, just because he can light it up with his legs also. But looking at it, you could look at Max Duggan, who wasn't even the starter, for Sonny Dykes when Sonny Dykes showed up. And then the starting quarterback gets hurt. So now Max has this new Nissan life, you know what I mean? So it's like maybe that kind of could have helped the Michigan a little bit more, especially like a Cade. Like let's say Cade came back and won the starting job. Like maybe that game ends a little differently, Again, not on JJ.
Duggan was playing with house money all season. It wasn't his job, and he was just giving it everything he had, and he was the Heisman runner-up. I think he should have won it, but obviously, he kind of what's his name from USC? I forget his name.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb. I was going to say CJ Williams, but I knew that was wrong. Caleb Williams went off the last few weeks where Duggan was still going off, but then voting ends early, which kind of makes a mistake. I think Duggan versus in his the game they lost, I feel like that effort right there should have won it, but voting was already in.
Yeah, that's another thing too. That's that weird Heisman thing because Chris McCaffrey should have won the Heisman, but before he even played in the Pac-12 championship, 80% of the votes were casted, and it's like, well, what are we doing? Why are we? You know what I mean? But Caleb had the benefit of his defense being so bad that he had to put up those numbers. You know what I mean? You can say the same for Max Duggan, but Max Duggan necessarily didn't have to do it because TCU's defense shut down Bijan Robinson for a lot of that Texas game for the Texas and TCU.
Yeah. In some points, TCU, they were so far ahead that they could just kill the clock. USC, they had to fight every game.
And ending to the Cotton Bowl, man, with Tulane hitting the upset on them.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, man, too. So maybe you can help me with this explanation, Matt. Like, I understand the Big Ten, both teams lost their college football playoff games. And we were just talking about USC lost to a big underdog in Tulane. But we've been hearing nothing about good things from Tulane. I just want to know why people think these conferences are just so awful. And you're looking at these couple of bowl games where you're doing your little hand picks, and then Kansas State, who wins the Big 12, gets destroyed by Alabama. But again, who was really giving Kansas State a chance against Alabama except me? And I was wrong on my bowl pick.
Yeah. I mean, it looked like they had a chance, Kansas State, at the beginning of the game because Deuce Vaughn was on fire that first quarter.
Oh yeah. It was because I remember again, I was at work, so I had to fucking just look up at the score. It was 10-0. I'm sitting here hold on. Yeah. Will Anderson's playing, Bryce Young is playing, no one's opting out. They're fucking, and I do want to give a tip of the cap to a Will Anderson and a Bryce Young for going ahead and playing the Sugar Bowl, even though you play at Alabama and that's not your expectation.
Yeah. Saban said it best, that's how you make your money. You don't make obviously if you run a 4.2 at the combine, you might shoot up the draft boards, but how you make more money is putting better film on the table for people to look at. That's playing football. The combine isn't football. So, I mean, he had a good point after that game.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to find Nick Saban without really good points, other than the NIL shit, because he's not.
Or him pleading to be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Speaking of shooting up the draft board and showing some film to get your to improve your draft stock, CJ Stroud for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Now I know you have a hatred for this team, so maybe your views are going to be a little skewed on it. But in my opinion, watching that game, he just shot up to probably the number 1 pick in the draft.
I think he answered a lot of questions that people had against him, where he's a mobile quarterback. When he takes off and run, like, he has wheels and he can get away from defenders, but he just hasn't all season, and it looks like he hasn't shown any heart. But that game, it looked like he wanted to win that game, and he was showing it. And honestly, they should have won that game.
Oh, they should have, Matt. You think they should have won the game?
If they didn't shank, if the kicker didn't shank, I mean, it's college, it's a college kicker, but if he didn't shank it, they win that game. I mean, it was a very makeable field goal. Was it 40 yards?
It was 50 yards.
It's not. It was 50 yards. Okay, it's still makeable. It's not like they put him at the 65.
Yeah. No, and you're right. I don't think watching it, and I've seen and it was crazy because the game made me look back again. I'm gonna throw my own bias in here. But the AFC Championship game with the Ravens and the Patriots in 2016. The Ravens had a 14-point lead 2 different times in that game. So the Patriots caught back up, tied it up. The Ravens went back up by 14. The Patriots came back, and they ended up winning the game. Ohio State's defense, I think, again, they gave up 42 points. So it's not that's nothing. But
yeah,
I think they stepped up bigger than we thought they were going to step up, especially early on in that game. If you look at, the way C.J. Stroud was playing, he was – determined to get them that W. And I didn't like a lot of the play calling. Once we can talk about the targeting penalty too. I think, and we're not a ref bashing show, but that should have been a targeting. Am I tripping, Matt? When you saw the targeting, did you see anything different?
No. So live action, I didn't see it because I was just kind of head down, fuck, this play's falling apart. But once they showed the replay, people are exiting the stands, and everyone's seen it on the replay. They're like, what are we reviewing? What happened? And they showed the crown of that guy's helmet smacked right in the back of Colson Loveland's helmet, and the whole stadium erupted. That's targeting. Even TCU fans are shaking their head, and they're like, damn, they're gonna have a chance here.
Yeah.
And then after 10 minutes, no call. What do you mean no call? He's defenseless, falling backwards, and this player smacks in the back of the head.
I thought, because
maybe it wasn't intentional, but that's targeting.
No, and again, reading the rules, it's using the crown of your helmet first and going down with your head, right? So I'm looking at it, and that's exactly what he did. Now, if you brace and still go down, that's still a targeting penalty. It doesn't count. It doesn't matter if you're just, sitting there and trying to do the quote-unquote right thing. Yes.
And
what's up? Do you mean?
And it's not like he was up on his feet, shimmying and shaking and shook, and then they all of a sudden they both happened to collide that way. One player went another way and they didn't expect it. He was on his back falling down because he was getting tackled and got smacked in the back of the head. But it was, if anything, it was a late hit. He was already going down.
Yeah, I could see that. That'd be a different aspect of what part of the argument is. Okay, but let's go to the Ohio State targeting call. That one wasn't as egregious, I don't think, but still,
no,
maybe could have been called the targeting.
I think before we've had all this targeting, what is targeting, anything like that, 3-4 years ago, no one would have batted an eye at that. Because I think it was clean. As soon as the ball hit the receiver's hands, the defensive back was coming in and laid a good hit.
Yeah.
I think maybe it was defenseless because of the new rules or something like that, but I don't think that was close to targeting.
Oh, you don't think it was close at all? You don't even think maybe
I could see the refs calling it, but they didn't call it in the other game, and they didn't call that. So, if they wouldn't have called the targeting against Michigan, or if they would have called it, I would have been okay, yeah, that is targeting. Or vice versa. It just, you got to be consistent, and they were consistent in that. That's not targeting.
Okay. No, and I like that. And another thing with what I like about the targeting is that they're going to be suspended, and it's dude, you don't want to suspend these guys for a national championship. I get it's only a half or whatever. And it's that's still fucking brutal. You know what I mean? Especially where it was in the game. That's the next game suspension. That's not the rest of the half or the rest of the game or whatever the fuck the rule is.
But in both cases, they're both close games, and that, I'm not saying that costs us the game, but that gives us a chance to win that game. And that's just one player who has to sit out the next half. He has to sit out half a game. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
The rest of that game and a half, like one player sitting out half or this team losing. Like, I don't know.
No, I'm with you. And I think, again, back to CJ Stroud, I think once Marvin Harrison Jr. went out, he showed a lot of promise. Like, okay, here are these quarterbacks or here are these wide receivers that I've never played with. And it's kind of like what he did last year in the Rose Bowl, too, with the Marvin Harrison and with Smith and Jigba when Olave and Garrett Wilson set out. So, we've seen CJ do that with receivers that aren't really necessarily always on the same page with him. And I think that's a big, big thing for the NFL when they're going to be like, all right, here's your training camp. These are your guys. And then this team, wherever team they go to, because they're going to be drafted high, aren't going to be very good.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, the Ohio State game was, man, that was probably one of the better games I've ever seen. I know everyone talks about the Texas USC game from 2005. That was a great game, but that's still not even my favorite Rose Bowl. I want to say 2017 with Penn State and USC, Sam Darnold and fucking Christian Hackenberg.
Barkley.
No. Barkley wasn't there yet.
Barkley played against USC. I just saw a highlight the other day. He made the whole defense miss in that game.
So then maybe I'm tripping, but I remember, and I don't remember very much about it because I remember everyone shits on me when I say that it was a better Rose Bowl than Texas USC. But yeah, it was just Darnold and Hackenberg going back and forth and a couple overtimes, and it was just that anyway. But this game was probably one of the best games we've ever seen. I'd say at least in the top 10 football games ever played in college football.
I think taking the next step further, I think the combination of these two games are the best semifinal games in the playoffs we've seen since the playoffs came around. Because obviously Michigan went down huge in the first half, but we came back and we were within 3 at one point in the game where it looked like we were well out of it.
Yeah, no, that's it. Oh, man, that's really cool too, that we're showing how good a 4-team playoff can be if you get the right teams in there. And again, a lot of people were saying TCU doesn't deserve it, Ohio State didn't deserve it, and then they show up and it's like, oh, well, they probably did, Yeah. Obviously, if you put Alabama in there, who are you losing? Ohio State? Does Alabama play that game against Georgia?
Yeah, and now, I don't know. But then the next step in the national championship is that TCU is going to have to play Georgia well to make it look like Michigan and TCU are good. But obviously, Michigan's good, but there are the questions on TCU. But obviously, they beat us. But now if they go and get smacked by Georgia, it makes, I don't know, it kind of skews our view again. It's like, well, are they really good?
Yeah. Or
do they just play out of their mind one game?
Yeah. But see, and that's where the SEC comes in. And obviously the SEC is the best conference. I will say that forever. I get it. But it's the top of the SEC is better. And the top, though, is probably, let's not say head over heels, but we'll say head over the rest of the competition. Like even in Michigan, even in Ohio State. And I think you could say the same thing for Ohio State. Did they just show up and play out of their minds? But we've seen them play like that all year, with the exception of the game against Michigan.
Yeah. It would have been nice to see the top 2 teams in the SEC versus the top 2 teams in the Big Ten to kind of hey, the SEC isn't that far ahead of the Big Ten. It's just you are top heavy just like the Big Ten is, but your bottom tier teams are maybe slightly better than the low tier teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah. But see, and again, the reason the SEC is better is the best conference is because of the national championships. You can't just ignore that. And I hate that that's you can't have both of those arguments of the SEC being so good, but we're just saying the bottom teams really fucking suck. That's it. You know what I mean? All right, man, that was fucking what do you think? Let's take some guesses on the Georgia TCU game. How do you see those games playing out, Matt?
See, I think Georgia plays very similar to how Michigan does on defense, but if TCU can slip tackles like they did versus Michigan, it's just going to be a shootout again because we've seen Georgia can get in a shootout with one of the best offenses in the country in Ohio State. So I don't think it's going to be as high scoring, but I think maybe 34-28 kind of game.
So I'm also with you on that exact thing, but I do think Georgia shows up I think Georgia really lets everybody know there's a reason we are back-to-back national champions. There's a reason Kirby Smart's going to be the best coach in the SEC. He's going to make Nick Saban retire, and Georgia is going to become the new Alabama. Slowly but surely, that's exactly what Georgia's been doing with their college football championship loss to Alabama. The game they beat Alabama. They put a ruck shop on Michigan last year. They put up a hell of a game. We haven't seen them in a real game like that until they played Ohio State. So I think it was really different seeing Georgia in that kind of limelight. And I'm picking Georgia. I hate doing it. I like TCU. I love what Sonny Dykes is doing down there, but it's just kind of hard when we haven't seen it before. It's easy for us to say like Ohio State could put up a fight against Georgia because we've seen them win national championships in the recent history. But, the Big 12, we're not really known for a bunch of natties. We're just known for let's throw the ball 4,000 times and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. For my sake, my mental health, I want TCU to win so then I can have that comfort of like, hey, we've been to the playoffs. We've lost to the last 2 national championship teams, which I'm okay with. Like if they're going to go out and win that, but if they go out there and get stomped, it's like, damn, because I know Michigan will put up a better fight than what that was if they get stomped.
Do you think Michigan overlooked TCU? I've seen a lot of that with how the plays were being called, and like y'all didn't seem like you really cared to play them, or like little underprepared kind of.
I think the first half definitely felt like that with the Philly special on the very first red zone attempt. But in the second half, I don't know. But in the second half, we outscored them. We outplayed them in the second half. We just couldn't keep up, and that was the problem. We just kept shooting ourselves in the foot with pick sixes and some fumbles here by JJ, and it's like, damn, man.
So close.
We shot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah. All right, man. So let's move on to the NFL, man. Let's talk some playoff spots. And this, I've been pinning in on you a couple times in the show just because it's exciting. Tell me, are the Lions making the playoffs?
So Matthew Stafford's wife put out on Instagram the Detroit Rams. So Stafford might be working some magic with Baker Mayfield, telling him how to win a game or two. So if the Rams can beat the Seahawks because they're without some key players on defense this week, and if the Lions play like how we played last week, and then the Packers don't play like how they played last week, we're in.
So I'm with you on that too. I just really want to see Dan Campbell succeed. I think the Lions are one of the best fan bases. One of the fan bases like you just don't hate. Like the Raiders are awful and you hate their fan base just because Jesus Christ they're rough, right? And it would be so exciting. And them and the Jags even, I would be really stoked if they can go on ahead and get in there.
See, the crazy thing is the Jags have had success in recent years, like throughout their history. Like they've made it to championship games. Like the Lions, they suck. And it's like our fans, like we sell out every home game. Like we're selling standing room only tickets. Like if our fans could get in the national limelight, like it's going to be big. It's going to be huge.
I just thought about in Hercules, the 3 like the witches that could see the future, and she was like indoor plumbing. It's gonna be big. I don't know if you remember that, but that's where my mind just went.
No,
dude. After the show,
no, I don't.
Trailer, it's like a big part of the trailer. So anyway, with the Patriots, who've had success for the last forever, also have a chance in the playoffs. Now, again, before we get into it too much, thoughts and prayers to DeMar Hamlin. I just, crazy sad situation. I guess it is what it is, kind of. I thought they were going to keep playing after the temporary suspension. I don't know. I know a lot of flack has been getting about Skip Bayless's tweet. We won't get it too much into that, but the 5-minute warm-up and then get ready thing, I don't think that's a rule. I think that was just Joe Burrow throwing a couple passes, getting ready because like he didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't think that was like a big shot at anybody. Like he was just probably like, all right, hey, we're still on offense. We got to keep this thing going.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like a miscommunication or like a game of like telephone where the NFL actually said something and then it just kind of got like skewed throughout the media. But I don't know. Obviously the teams need more than 5 minutes to warm up on a cold night like that. Like 5 minutes isn't going to do anything. So I'm not sure.
Well, also, I just thought Roger Goodell, how hard would it have been for him to fucking FaceTime, say ESPN, put this on your broadcast right now. This is the commissioner of the National Football League. Tell us what the fuck is about to go down. Instead of
go ahead.
You know
what I thought was wild about last night? You said pull out your phone and FaceTime. The NFL released a statement via notes from an iPhone.
What?
Yeah, if you go look at the official statement they released, it's someone typed it out in the notes on an iPhone.
They didn't have like the NFL header or any of the like.
No, it's like they were in the notes and they just cropped the top and bottom out. I was like, this looks so familiar, and why does it look so cheap? It's from an iPhone, like notes in an iPhone.
What the fuck? That's wild.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on? NFL, you got to do better with that. What is that?
Yeah, I'm surprised no one's talking about that. Obviously, that's not a big deal, but still do a little better.
But yeah, it's a very strange situation because if the Chiefs lose and whoever won the Bills, if the Bengals beat the Bills are the number 1 seed. And now we're just sitting here like, what's going to happen next week? Is it going to be play this wild card game to get home field advantage? And now you start playing, you know what I mean? Like, is it, what if the Bengals win they beat the Ravens next week and they win the division? Like, how's that going to play out? And I'm just curious as a fan of the game, I'm just curious about that side, not like, hey, fuck all that. Who cares? But it's just like, I'm curious about how it's going to work out.
Yeah. And it's not just these two teams where it's only like, okay, the winner of this does this. It's the 4 teams involved because the 2 teams they play next week are also fighting for playoffs, and they need those team standings to kind of get their standings. So it's just like, it's bigger than just this week. It's next week. It's 4 playoff teams involved in this now, potentially.
Yeah. And it's gonna be a very, I guess you could say like a PR nightmare kind of thing for the league too, because it's all about player safety, but they've been focusing so much on head injuries that we're not even worried about like checking underlying conditions or any of that stuff. Like I'm not an NFL player. I don't know how they do it. So it's like, did anyone check this guy's heart? Did anyone see, like, is there some kind of condition that he had, or like, what are they doing about that?
Yeah. And I don't know if you remember, I don't know, it was maybe 8 or 10 years ago, but you remember Jerome Harrison from the Browns where he had that one big game where he had like 280 yards rushing?
Kind of. It's kind of a fuzzy picture, but I can.
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago, but he ended up playing for the Lions, and the Lions traded him to the Eagles. And when he went to the Eagles to get that physical, they found he had a brain tumor. So it took him getting traded to save his life to get another physical. So like once you join the team, you get your physical, but like how often are they doing physicals throughout the year?
Oh, that is pretty crazy. I mean, maybe for like contract, like like you're gonna re-sign a guy for millions and millions, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy. But let's get into some real stuff. Tom Brady, the GOAT, is back in the playoffs again. And if you're in the NFC, I bet you're a little worried about playing him in the playoffs. No?
I would say maybe if he plays like he played somehow he played this week, which he hasn't done all year. But like, I don't know, it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. He might play like that every game, which that's scary. But like, if we get Tom the other 15, 16 weeks of the season, oh yeah, let's play him.
Yeah.
Because they've won most of their games by like a field goal or less than a touchdown. It feels like.
Yeah, it's something like, but their offense hasn't scored like 23 points, but only 4 other times or something, some wild number.
Yeah.
When you have Tom Brady, and I wonder if it is the coaching too, because you have Brian Leftwich, who's the play caller, right? But Bruce Arians was like, no, we're not doing that. Like, is he up in the booth still kind of making some calls, or like, is it all on Byron Leftwich to make all these play calls now? Because they don't look the same. You know what I mean? Like this team does not look like they've been looking.
I feel like Bruce Arians just has a way of, putting that information in people's head for them to make the right decision. He's a great head coach, and I don't think Todd Bowles has that. Like, he's already proven with the Jets he wasn't a very good head coach. Yeah, he had a good defense like he does now, but he had a terrible offense then. And now he has a terrible offense with the GOAT, which, I mean, obviously it was good this week, but like, there's got to be something I think it's just Todd Bowles.
See, and I think it's a lot of the other stuff. Tom Brady's getting sued for all that weird crypto thing and all that nonsense, and then the divorce is probably
I don't understand
hard.
how he's getting sued.
I think because it's like
there's a bunch of athletes who invested.
But I think it's something along the lines of a fraud because he's like saying how well it's doing and shit like that when it really wasn't doing as well or something like that. It's kind of like
promoting it.
Yeah, like where you're like just promoting the shitty thing, but you're Tom Brady. So, but then again, it's like we say like Subway's great and healthy and all that shit for you, but it's like not. So it's like, where's the line? You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been big on the crypto stuff either. Like it just felt like too like, hey, this isn't real money, but it's worth all this money. Like that's just.
It always felt like a get rich thing for people who are like in the know.
That's true. Yeah, like the GameStop one where like. Why is GameStop stocks up? Which I think is cool for like people to just make some fucking quick money that don't make a lot of money.
But that's the power of the internet is like they put out like, hey, tomorrow we're dumping money in GameStop, and that's what happened during the pandemic. People did it, and then more people who buy it, the stock goes up. So a bunch of people bought in early a bunch of money, and then people kept buying in, and it just shot up, and they sold. So the internet like scammed the system.
But again, it's not a scam, really. That's not a scam.
No, it's not. It's just like you get a group of investors. That's what big companies do. But the internet just decided they were going to make some money that day.
But why aren't they keep doing it? Like, why did it stop? What else?
I'm sure there is like groups who do it, but that one just went big because everyone was just stuck in their house on Robinhood and Reddit and stuff. They're like, oh shit, you see that? They're investing in GameStop tomorrow, and the whole world knew about it. Yeah.
Speaking of some playoff teams that we're scared of, the Vikings, who we are just not scared of, I don't think anymore.
I haven't been scared of them all season.
You've been saying it all year. I'll give you that. And they're kind of like the Steelers of last year, right? Or was that 2 years ago?
A couple years ago when they went 11-0.
Yeah, and I think it's the same kind of type of team. But I do think Kevin O'Connell, I think, is a fucking great head coach, and I really think he's having Kirk Cousins play out of his mind. It doesn't hurt having a Justin Jefferson, right? But they're just looking rough. Like that was a bad game.
Yeah. See, the problem is they have that great offense, but they don't have a defense at all. Like that defense is just Swiss cheese. Yeah. Anyone can do whatever they want against them. And so when they have an off day on offense, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
Like if they're not in the shootout mode, they're going to lose.
And I'm thinking if they get a home, like if they get the number 1 seed, right? Like let's say Philly loses next week and then the Vikings win. Or no, I don't think they can now.
I don't think so.
Nope.
I think the Eagles are 13-2 and the Vikings are 12-4.
Yeah, the Vikings are 12-4. The Eagles are 13-3.
Oh, 13-3. That's what I meant.
But I still think because they hold the tiebreaker anyway. But
yeah.
What I was gonna say, I think if Minnesota plays only home games in the playoffs, I think they can make some noise.
Yeah, they do have one of the best like home crowds. But it's like a college atmosphere in it.
Yeah, atmosphere or fear? Matt, come on, man.
Fear. I don't know.
We're professionals out here.
Sorry.
But I've seen Kirk Cousins do it in the playoffs against New Orleans, man. He fucking had that really great throw to Kyle Rudolph in 2018, I think, or 2019.
Yeah.
And I mean,
he also Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, but I mean, hey, what are you gonna do?
Versus the Saints.
Let's go. They had a top defense that year though, too, Matt.
Yeah.
Let's do Josh McDaniels. Last week we were out here crushing them for benching Derek Carr, and we thought that was a very strange situation and what was going on. And then Jared Stidham gets out there and looks like Brock Purdy just didn't win the game.
I think. Well, he's been in Josh McDaniels' system forever. Yeah, he hasn't had many games.
That was his first start.
Been in the league like 5 years, roughly 6 years, and he's been in the Patriots or Josh McDaniels' system. So obviously he should know it. Maybe a little better than Derek Carr, but Derek Carr, if he's a one of the elite quarterbacks, he should pick up on it and then still make decisions. Like the coach can't tell you what to do mid-play. Only the quarterback can. So.
No, and I don't want to shit on Derek Carr. There's a lot of Raiders fans that don't like Derek Carr, but they also don't understand that the Raiders have had the 32nd worst defense since he's been drafted. Like the worst. Not like one of the worst, but like the worst. And they've had their years here and there with Del Rio for a while. And then Derek Carr was an MVP candidate till he broke his leg. And then that was really sad and all that stuff. They've moved cities. That's probably like a big deal. You know what I mean? But then you look at the Rams and they've won a Super Bowl since then. So I guess you can't really use that. But
they didn't move that far. Like the Rams picked up, moved across the country.
That's a good point. But I do think with the defense that the Raiders have and all those offensive weapons and what Derek Carr did last year, I think is getting probably like hyped a little more than it should. Like with all the shit with Henry Ruggs and all the other nonsense that was really going down. Like, yeah, that's a big deal. But at the same time, like we just kind of move on and play football, right? Like what we were just talking about earlier. But
yeah,
that team wasn't very good. Like they shouldn't have made it that far. So like the fact that people were out here picking the Raiders to win the division, and some people were saying, make a playoff AFC championship run, stuff like that. And you're like, this team wasn't very good. And Josh McDaniels has shown us he's not the best head coach. He's losing a lot of close games. He's losing a lot of leads. But then so is John Harbaugh. And do you think John Harbaugh's not a good head coach? Yeah, you do, because he's good. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where's that line?
Yeah. But I think the Raiders' expectation is because they had that huge offseason, added Chandler Jones, Devontae Adams, like two superstars on both sides of the ball. Like you have to get a little bit better than last year, right? Like if you add these two major like pieces, like obviously there's a whole coaching change, but I don't know.
Well, did their offensive line get any better? No.
I think they should have
from 2 years ago.
To be honest, they should have just stayed with Bisaccia, but then the team would have gelled, got better if they added the same pieces. That locker room was behind Bisaccia.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bisaccia, I don't know how he didn't get at least a couple calls or like an interview for like another head coaching job.
Yeah.
The way he did that.
He handled everything well.
The handwritten notes to every player, like that's fucking bonkers, like
he's a football guy through and through.
He's a football guy. I'm so glad you said it because I was like, Matt's not gonna say it. All right, let's get into some trivia, man. This is gonna be our little last segment. Obviously the show's a little faster with two people. It's not we can't do the whole gig that we're doing. Tony, I don't want to disrespect Tonio and give Billy's top tier because it's just gonna be bad. But so I'm going to give you some quarterback stats, Matt, and I want you to tell me the best quarterback there is. All right, so QB A, B, and C. I'm just going to go passing yards first, right? So okay. 42,014 yards, or 4,214 yards.
I was going to say, that guy is the best.
All right, and then you got 4,322 yards. A little better. Okay. And then you got 3,490 yards, okay? So QB A or QBB is winning that one, but, not too far off from QB A. 29 touchdowns, 28 touchdowns, and 25 touchdowns. All right. 7, this is for interceptions. 7 interceptions, 14 interceptions, and 11 interceptions. All right. With just those numbers alone, who are you going with? Which quarterback?
So you're telling me quarterback A has what, like 80-some yards less, a touchdown more, and half the interceptions?
Yes.
It's going to have to be quarterback A.
Okay, so are we just eliminating C because of the low passing yards?
Yeah, C. He's got touchdowns. He's doing his thing, but like he's not really doing much. It feels like he might throw a lot of red zone touchdowns, but that doesn't paint the picture of the season.
I got you. Okay, and then 100.1, 91, and 91.5 for the QB ratings. So C is already kind of done, I'm guessing. QBB 91 quarterback rating, and then 9 points higher with quarterback A.
Yeah, so that just reassures my point of quarterback A has been playing, seems like lights out this season.
Sure. Okay, so then I'm going to tell you real fast. So quarterback C, guess who that is?
It's not Russell Wilson because he only has 13 touchdowns this season.
What a bum. He probably has less picks than that, though, you think? Or more? I don't think he's still throwing a lot of interceptions.
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. All right, John.
Is quarterback C Mac Jones?
No, but good guess though. It's a big guy. It's a superstar.
Superstar.
Yeah.
No, I just seen Tom as like top of passing. Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah, Mr. Discount Double Check. What a fucking bum. 25 and 11.
Yeah.
All right, quarterback B. I'm gonna give a hint. Just a mid-tier guy. Just a guy. He's solid for you. Can get you to the playoffs. Who do you think that is?
You just described Kirk Cousins. Is that Kirk Cousins?
That's good. Yeah. No. I was thinking Derek Carr when I was looking at I was thinking you were gonna guess Derek Carr. But then we went in that kind of tirade about how he's not very good. But all right, then QB8. Who is QB8, Matt? This one's easy.
That one's Jared Goff.
That's Jared Goff. Yes, that's your boy. Why is he getting any love, Matt? What's going on in Motor City?
I think we went 1-6 at one point, and everyone's like, "Oh, Jared Goff sucks. They're gonna draft." It's been our defense losing us games, just like how, the Vikings, they're close in games, but they're winning these close games. We are not. The Lions have not been. If we had a slightly better defense, yeah, we would probably be first in our division, but we don't.
So you don't think if you had Kirk Cousins, you could win in these closer games? Because why not? Why can't I just say that that's the problem?
No, because if you just put his production in our offense and don't change anything, those 14 interceptions, what do they do off those turnovers? We lose more games.
That's true, yeah, but Jared Goff has to right the ship and not throw it 14 picks. I gotcha.
Yeah.
I do think it is so crazy because y'all were 1-6 at one point, and I was just really worried because I was like, they're going to have to fire Dan after this, and it's just going to be – that's not good. But then Dan Campbell just shows you, look, culture. Let's build this slowly, and y'all's actual ownership is doing a good job of letting it just ride itself out. Now, I don't want another Jim Caldwell situation where it's gets to the playoffs and y'all are like, all right, that was fun, but why aren't we winning Super Bowls?
Yeah, no, that was the worst time as a Lions fan when we fire a coach who has a winning record that season. We're the Lions. Jim Caldwell could have been our Marvin Lewis. We should be fine with 8-8. Every once in a while we get 10 wins and get in the playoffs. That would have been spectacular. Jim Caldwell had Matthew Stafford playing the best football of his career.
Yeah.
And we're just yeah, you're out of here. You won a Super Bowl with the Colts and Peyton Manning. Why not us?
Who did y'all get after? Was that the defensive coordinator for the Eagles?
No.
Shit.
No, after Jim Caldwell?
Yeah.
No, we got Matt Patricia and we lost. And we've lost and we've lost. Before, so we fired Jim Schwartz because he was a winner with us. He was winning with us. We had a good offense under him, but we had a good defense with him. We had, I think, his second to last year, we had the number 2 defense in the league.
Yeah, y'all had
we had Nick Fairley, Sue, Cliff Averill, and Kyle Vandenbosch.
I forgot about Kyle Vandenbosch.
We had Glover Quinn, Louis Dalma. We had a defense. DeAndre Levy led the league in picks. We were playing great with him, but then we just got beat up by the Saints. They scored on every possession in the playoffs. We won 11 games that season.
I know Calvin Johnson had, I want to say his stat line right because it's the craziest shit of all time. It was 12, 234, and 3 or something fucking bonkers that. I remember watching the documentary, The Football Life of Calvin Johnson. I texted you that, and I was like, you're like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah, that's Calvin Johnson's playoff stat line.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, I want to know Calvin Johnson's average yards in playoffs because I don't think there's ever been a wide receiver as good as Calvin Johnson in his small sample size in the playoffs. But I swear every game he's at over 200 yards in the playoffs.
I want to say that you're right about that, but
I just don't know about the Seahawks his last year. Or no, was he already retired then?
Nah, y'all haven't made the playoffs since he left.
Yeah,
because that was 2013, right?
No, he retired in 2015, 2016. I want to say we made the playoffs our first year with Marvin Jones and Golden Tate.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. You might be right about that.
But then I can't remember. No, we did lose because Cam Chancellor punched the ball. Or was that in a regular season game? I'm getting confused. It was the Seahawks were the height of their power then, and we were just a good team trying to get past them at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, yeah, dude, that was a like a fun show. I thought like a fun little quick show. Just kind of got it out there. Again, waiting on Buckeye Aaron to come back so he can eat some crow on this loss and probably just give credit to Georgia and just be a really professional about his loss and just take it on the chin like a man. But yeah, dude, that was
speaking
fun,
of which. Speaking of kickers, actually, missing field goals, Buckeye Aaron said he thought that Jake Moody had missed a kick. He didn't. He had a 58-yard field goal in the game to end the half. I didn't see it when I was at the game. I didn't see him warm up past 45, and he was barely making those. So when he lined up for that, I was like, they're about to return this or something bad is going to happen. Nope, just drilled it. Money Moody.
Hell yeah. Good for Money Moody.
Full of Moody's, we would have won the game.
All right, man. Till next week, we'll see when Tonio gets back or if Aaron ever wants to do the show again. But Matt, you're always here. I'm trying to always be here. Going through some other stuff. Oh, yeah, and some merch is coming out. We're trying to do a whole bunch of cool things. So just like the video, share it, subscribe it. We'll do, or not we'll, but I'm going to do the same shit that me and Tonio have been trying to do. $5 a share. Just put your Cash App in the bottom and just hit the share button. That's it. You can even just share it just to me so I can see it. And then I have to give you $5. I don't understand. It's like the deal of a life. Like literally the deal of a life. I don't get it. But all right, man. I appreciate your time, Matt. We'll see you guys next week. That's going to be before the playoff, though, right? Playoff is the 9th? The national championship?
Yeah, college football playoffs the 9th. It's on a Monday.
Then we'll see you guys next week right after that game, and you get the fucking reactions from the BrickShot crew, man. We appreciate your time. Thanks.
Hey.